I'm Taylor.
I'm Mike. Two friends and a question.
Okay, these are a couple of questions.
All right.
So if you've made it to podcast number 8, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
We hope you've been entertained some way, shape, or form. We'd love for you to comment, to leave a message, to let us know you're listening, please.
And to give us your questions.
Yeah, maybe you have questions. Absolutely.
You know, I'm simple-minded. I need one at a time.
Here's the first one. So you're all in a room. You've got blindfolds on. You have no idea who's going to be in this room. And I come behind you and lift the blindfold on everyone you've loved, their blindfold as well. Who runs to you and who do you run to? Now, let me say this. It can't be your kids, your wife, like your immediate family, okay? It has to be somebody outside your family.
I have a favorite priest who always gives good advice and has a deep love of Christ, and I would probably go to him. Now, again, the immediate family's out of the room, right? So I would go to him because I know that he would give me straight up.
That's good.
Now, who would run to me?
Yeah.
Probably nobody.
I was going to say the same thing.
Were you?
Yes.
But about me or about you?
No, about me. I was going to say, nobody's running to me. Everybody's running away from me. And you said the same thing.
Unless I take the chip dip bowl and they have to come to me. Then we're okay.
That's awful.
There was a guy that I used to hang around with back in Columbus. His name was Dave. But he was born during a hurricane that was named Dave. So his nickname was
Hurricane Dave.
Hurricane Dave, right.
Okay.
And he was special needs. And he and I used to hang out. And one time we drove to Ohio State to get my grades. It was the end of the term and I needed my grade card. Back in the old days before they emailed it to you. And he was in the car and I left it running in a spot that was reserved. And I shouldn't have been in that spot. But I said, okay, Hurricane, here's the deal. I'm going to run in there and get my grades. You just hang in the car. They won't tow it if you're sitting in it. Well, I was delayed. There was a line. Finally got my grades to come back. And he's standing, I stress standing, in the parking spot with the keys in his hand. I said, what happened? The car's gone. He goes, they told me to get out. So I got out.
Wow.
So I think Hurricane might come to me because we were pretty good buddies.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you still talk to him at all?
No, we've lost touch, and I probably should resurrect that because he taught me a lot about life. He's a good guy.
You'll have to send him this podcast.
Yes, that's a good idea.
I love that.
I think he might come to me just because we were such good buds.
That.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, though. I'm going to ask, may I ask you, or did you want to go on the second one?
No, you can ask me.
All right, so same deal. No immediate family.
Okay, so I think that I would run to a guy named Joe.
Okay.
Who loved me and was just so good to me in my life. We dated almost 6 years.
Wow.
I know you never heard about him, have you?
No.
Such a man of God. Oh, my goodness. The whole time we dated, I don't think he ever missed church, but I never went with him.
Mm. He's
married to an amazing woman, I hear. Mm-hmm. He's got 7 kids. Yes, he's Catholic. And I've only had 2 loves of my life, and he's one of them.
Is he really?
Yeah. So I think I would run to Joe. For sure.
Joe sounds like a good guy.
He was a really good guy. And he came to Binghamton, New York when I had left Texas because he wouldn't marry me to marry me. And I was with another guy. So Joe was a favorite of all my friends and family. So I think I would run to him. And who would run to me? Now, we only have a certain amount of time, so all the people you list we don't have time for. I have one person that I know without a doubt that would run to me, and he's probably going to be hurt because I didn't say I would run to him, but it's my best friend, Jeff. We talk every day. He's been my best friend for 20-something years. He's actually about to come in for my 50th birthday.
Really?
And I know without a doubt that guy loves me unconditionally, knows everything about me, every detail. I think he would run to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you were able to answer those 2 pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Well, because I knew it. I knew the question.
Cheater.
I know. What would be the biggest lesson you've learned in life so far?
Now, Taylor, remind me, what's the tagline for our show? two friends and a question?
But I want to just
singular.
I want to ask you a couple of on this 8th. We're celebrating 8 podcasts.
It is a celebration. So the biggest lesson I've learned, this is going to come as a shock, Taylor, and I hope that you can handle the answer, and I hope our audience can. But I think I'm right on this. I ain't in charge.
And do you trust who's in charge 100% most of the time? It's hard, isn't it? Yeah. Because you know what? I know he's all powerful, but sometimes his timetable doesn't match mine. Right. And waiting is so hard.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you have the angst that we have. So, yeah, I think I've learned finally that I'm starting to realize I'm not in charge. What's your biggest lesson?
I think my biggest lesson is people are not perfect, including myself. People are not perfect. And I've got to show people grace the same way that God shows me grace. That's what
a beautiful lesson.
Yeah. And now pretty much always people are going to let you down.
Yeah. Well, again, if they would come to our committee meetings, how long did it take you to learn that one? You're going on 40, right?
Yeah, going on 40. Don't I wish.
A lot of that time?
It took me 50 years.
Did it?
Yeah.
I'm still learning mine, too. Do you ever feel like one day you got it and the next day you're back at square zero trying to learn that lesson?
All the time. I think life is just a constant.
2 steps forward, 1 step back?
Yeah, and it's a constant struggle mentally to just stay in the Word and stay afloat.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And let me say this, Mike. It's not just with like money. I'm talking about with everything, with your work environment, with your home environment, your neighborhood, your family, your friends. I mean, it comes down to just staying afloat.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You know?
And sometimes staying afloat, you suck a lot of water and get hit by a lot of waves.
Yes, absolutely.
Then on days when it's a calm sea, you're thinking, what the heck was I stressed about?
Yeah.
But it comes back. And that's where I think your point about relying on the Word and relying on Christ only, since that's the only basis you have anyway, comes into play more. Mm-hmm. Because you can't count on the world to do it for you.
So Mike talked about, he went to Catholic school and he was bullied, and he talked about school sometimes was a struggle. School for me was absolutely a struggle. I did not like school. I felt very out of place. I've said this to some of the people that I've went to high school with that I've talked to recently. I actually was a bully.
Taylor?
Yes.
I think you're fibbing.
No.
THP?
No, I'm serious.
Total
I bullied
honesty
a couple of girls. Absolutely.
I don't see it.
I promise.
Okay.
Do you think people can change?
Yes.
Well, I changed. So in school, in the yearbook, you have, most likely to whatever, most likely to do this. Mm-hmm. If you could have an adult yearbook and someone gave you an award tonight that said most likely to whatever, what would it be? Think on that. So mine would be when I was 28 years old, I got one of Nashville's 25 most beautiful people.
Did you really?
Yes.
Nice.
And I still have the magazine.
Nice.
And Mike, I was so excited about this because my whole life has been about looks. Mm-hmm. My whole life has been a struggle with looks. I can remember just being so proud of myself. Oh my gosh, this is so great. If I could go back and tell that 27, 8, 9-year-old girl something today, it would be, what about being voted one of Nashville's 25 most? Taylor would be the person that would most likely lead you to Christ.
That's huge.
That's what I would like to be voted for.
That's a beautiful statement.
What about for you?
Most likely to be voted as what would I like? Mm-hmm. I can't top that one.
So I'm going to give you some awards tonight.
Oh, no.
Look, he's like, don't do this. Don't do this.
No.
Most likely to help you. Most likely to be compassionate. Most likely to pray for you. If you ask Mike to pray for you, Mike is going to pray for you. I can assure you of that. I've heard this man's prayers in church, praying for people. And I'm thinking, how does he even remember that? One time you got out a list and it was like really specific little prayers. And I was like, how does he even remember that?
Because I'm old. I need the list.
No, but I mean, that you just wrote it down was pretty cool. I lived with my great aunt. Her name's Libby. She was in her 90s, Mike, when I moved from Nashville to the Tri-Cities in Tennessee. And I'm not kidding you. Every night, that woman prayed out loud in her bed to where I could hear her. and would, I mean, be specific over, I bet it took her an hour to pray.
Really?
Yes. Yes. And would be like, and Jerry that I saw at the grocery store today that bagged my groceries, God bless him and his family.
Wow.
I mean, it was spectacular.
And probably people who didn't ask her to pray for us.
Absolutely.
I mean, she just would list them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an example.
And I think that you're like that. I do, Mike. I think that's a good quality. When listeners reach out to me and say, pray, I do my best to do that. I do my best to really pray, but I'm not always successful. But I'll tell you, if I'm not, there's backup people here at Star that are. But I pretty much always do it. There's a few cases, that maybe I have forgotten. But I think that's such a good quality to pray for someone.
Well, in your defense, you get thousands of requests. I only get a few, and so it's easy for me to remember them. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. I like this little game. Mike, what would you truly regret not doing if you went to heaven tonight?
What I left undone here?
Yes.
Telling my wife and my kids how much I love them.
You don't think they know that?
I think they know I do, but I think I don't show it as much as I could, and I would regret not having taken every opportunity to have shown them that.
I don't believe that. That's Mike's feeling inadequate and worthless. I don't believe that.
You don't?
No. I've been around you and your family. I could never for a second sit down with Beth, your wife, or your kids and feel like they didn't feel loved by Mike. No.
But as much as I could have. That's the piece, I think.
How could you then more? How could you show your family you love them more?
Maybe tell them more. Maybe sit down and say, you know what? More than I have. And you know what? I'm really proud of you. And I'm really honored to be your dad or your husband.
I called Drew last night and told him those exact words.
Did you?
I swear. I called Drew last night and I said, I want you to know how proud I am of you. And I don't think I tell you that enough. I'm so proud of you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How do you take it?
He goes, I know, Mom. I know you are.
Did he?
I said, Drew, seriously, like you moved. This is one thing, Mike, and you can think the same thing with your kids. I think how my son, who's 16 now, loved me so much when he was 12 years old that he left all of his friends and family and came to Cincinnati to try to make me happy. He loved me so much he wanted to do that for me.
Yeah.
And he stuck it out for years.
Yeah.
And that shows me how much he loved me.
Yes.
And letting him go was the ultimate sacrifice of love for me.
Yeah.
And Mike, he's made the baseball team. He's thriving. He's just doing so much better than he was here. For whatever reason, it just did not, he just never felt like he fit in here.
Right.
But I will say this. Since moving to the Tri-Cities, he has a best friend at the school that he went to here. Somehow these two have connected. They didn't even talk when they were in school together in Cincinnati. But now he's moved to Tennessee and they're best friends. And he's like, Jason wants to come to Tennessee. Can he ride with you? I'm like, Drew, Jason lived 2 blocks from us when you lived here for 3 years. Life's so funny.
It is funny.
I think your kids know how proud you are of them.
I hope so.
I think they do.
You know, it's funny how you don't miss something until it's gone. Jack having gone to college. And now when he comes home on break, it's like, it's really nice to have him back.
So tell me about that process. We kind of went through the same thing. You saying bye to Jack for college, me saying bye to Drew for moving back to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
How did you handle that? Or, Mike, did you feel like, okay, this is what I raised him to do, was to go to college and grow up, and he's...
It's that, mostly, because that's what we worked for. But when he comes home on break, I realize how much we miss him. Or how much, at least I do. And I know the girls do too, Beth and Kate. But, again, I think you don't appreciate it till it's gone.
Yeah.
And he's doing so well and making such good decisions and all that it's easier.
He's such a good kid. I mean, Kate is too. Both of your kids are phenomenal.
Well, thanks. I'm married up.
You're so goofy. Okay.
How about you? Real quick, letting Drew go, you said was the ultimate sacrifice of love. What have you learned through that, and how has it changed your relationship with him?
Oh, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. Hardest thing I've ever done. And I miss him so much. Yesterday, I was walking in the grocery store and I literally pulled aside in an aisle because I saw mac and cheese. And I just stood there and thought, I feel like I could collapse. I cannot believe this is my life. I cannot believe I don't have both my kids under the same house in the same place.
Yeah.
And, Mike, people will blame me for that, and that's fine. I don't even want to go into all that. People they don't know the whole story.
Right.
But I'm proud of myself for being able to go to counseling with Drew and for us to still be as close as we are. We have a great relationship. Obviously, we miss each other, but we still talk on the phone and we still share each other's, day. And now he's 16. He doesn't call me as much as I would like. But to know that Drew is happy, Mike, you would sacrifice your own happiness if someone said, this will make your child happy.
Yep. In a heartbeat.
If it wasn't something that was going to hurt them.
Right.
So I feel like when you are a parent, your sacrifices are limitless.
Yeah.
And I realize I cannot hang on to Drew when his heart and mentally he's not here.
Right. And that gets us to realize what God did. God would do anything to save us, and he sent his own son to suffer for that. So who are we to say a sacrifice is too much?
Right. I will never forget the day in counseling when Drew's counselor at Children's in Cincinnati said to me, Drew loves you so much and he never wants to hurt you. But he said if his friends and his baseball team in Tennessee was in Cincinnati, he would stay here.
Stay here
in Cincinnati. But he loves his friends in Tennessee and that baseball team so much, and he misses it, that he wants to move back. And I looked at her and I was crying and I said, I feel like I'm going to throw up. But you know what? I love him so much that I can let him go.
Right.
And that was crazy saying, if you love something, set it free. That is what Drew was, a caged bird.
Yeah.
And I opened the door and I said, go fly.
And you watched him soar.
Yes.
And as a parent, does that make it all worth it?
Yes.
To see him happy and thriving?
Yes.
And again, that gets back to God saw us chained by sin, and he had to open the door.
Right. And there's not hard moments between Drew and I, so don't get me wrong. There are moments that he has told me in the past weeks where he's torn between two lives. And that's where we get back to the breakdown of the American family and people getting married that shouldn't get married and people just jumping into marriage and having a family and having kids and all that. And I feel so much guilt for that he's torn between two worlds. But this is a life. This is what I tell Drew. Drew, these are the cards that I've been dealt with and I'm doing what I have to do.
Right.
Because Mike, if I didn't live in Cincinnati, I would probably not be alive. That's the truth. So I did what I had to do.
Yeah. And you're doing what you have to do.
Right.
And the fact that he is happy and you guys still have a relationship is probably all we need to hear.
Yes.
And so therefore, what did Jesus say? Judge the tree by the fruit. Well, the fruit's not rotten in your world. It's really thriving. And you have done what you can. And if you hadn't, what kind of fruit would there be? So kudos to you.
Can we do a whole podcast on that?
Yes, I would love to.
Because I get so confused with the fruit and all of that. So please let's.
Yes, I'm going to make a note. Let me ask you one more question along that line.
Yes.
If Drew said to you, and this is a big if because it's not possible, if I'm going to move my baseball team and all my friends to Cincinnati to be with you, what would you say?
Come on.
Would you?
And that's where I say Drew always says, one day he'll say, I hope I made the right decision. And I'll say, you made the right decision. You did. Don't second guess that, Drew. You made the right decision. And then another day he'll say, I know I made the right decision. But for instance, he's really good friends with this kid from Cincinnati now.
Yeah, that's funny.
And he'll say, man, why did Jason and I not hang out when we were going to school together? I'm like, I have no idea, Drew. I can't. But let me ask you this. Could it have been that Drew wasn't open for the new experiences that God had placed in his life? And, God told Lot's wife, do not look back. She looked back and was turned into a pillar of salt.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God in heaven that Drew is not sinking.
Right.
And he's not a pillar of salt.
Right.
But at the same time, I did say to Drew, Drew, God's brought us to a new land, a new opportunity.
Mm-hmm. I think that you were right. He was a caged bird here, and caged birds don't look around as much as free birds.
Yes.
And so maybe he didn't see the value in his friend until he was freer.
Right.
And Drew can thank God for the ways to communicate that we didn't have growing up and even before that.
Yeah.
He would have been a 6-week telegram.
I know. I know.
Or a letter.
And, Drew always says this too, like moving to Cincinnati opened my eyes to a bigger world. And I think that was a good thing that happened.
Yeah.
So.
And that's a good thing that'll stick with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, on your rough days, you remember what a good mom you've become.
Same for you.
I'm a good mom. Thank you.
You're a very good mom, Mike.
Thank you.
You're a very good dad, Mike. It's our 8th podcast. We made it through 8 seasons. We're on season 8. You're binge watching the Mike and Taylor 2 Friends and a Question podcast.
Well, let's ask a quick question before we wrap this one up.
Yeah.
What have you learned in 8 sessions? From beginning to end, what have you learned?
What I already knew, that we should have done this years ago.
You know what I've learned?
Poor Mike. I'm not going to cut you any breaks.
You know what I learned?
What?
I should have done this a long time ago with you.
Seriously, Mike. Take action.
Well, hold on. Let's set the stage. I had my wife, whom I dearly love. I had you, who I respect very much. And both of you said I should do this a long time ago. So therefore, my decision-making was clouded. You see? Because I didn't have any clear directives. Do you understand
You had 2 very smart people in your life telling you what to do, and you did not listen. What a typical man.
I'm sorry. Did you say something?
Seriously. I know God's timing is right, and you've got to listen to what God puts on your heart, Mike, not what I say to you or anybody else. But I do think when you have faith and then you don't take action, get out of the boat.
In all seriousness, you're right. But in all seriousness, another side of this, the person I was 2 years ago when you first proposed this and Beth said I should is not the person I am now. And I'm not sure the person I was 2 years ago would
That's good,
have
Mike.
been able to do this.
That's good.
I'm being serious.
God's timing is perfect.
That's right. So whatever craziness you think is coming from us with these podcasts, realize it could have been a lot crazier.
Whatever. Mike's most crazy thing would have been
2 different pair of
skinny
socks.
dipping or something.
That's too cold.
Yeah, right.
Craziest thing I've ever done is wear 2 different socks.
That's probably the truth. If we were only able to talk about all the crazy things that we've really done.
Yeah, well, this is a G family show.
Yes, that's right. All right, I'm Taylor.
I'm Mike. 2 friends and a question. 2 friends and a question. 2 friends and a question.